The Crown's clutter crisis, inside the logistical nightmare of Prince Andrew's relocation. Behind the gilded gates and manicured lawns of the British monarchy, a crisis of accumulation is unfolding that rivals any fictional drama. It is a situation that has transformed a royal residence into a logistical battlefield, where the adversary is not a foreign power or a tabloid scandal, but mountains of paper, photographs, and personal memorabilia. The walls of Royal Lodge, the Grade II listed home of Prince Andrew, are reportedly buckling under the weight of decades of forgotten memories, creating a physical and bureaucratic impasse that threatens to derail one of the most significant royal relocations in recent history. The narrative centers on the upcoming move of Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, from his long-held residence at Royal Lodge to the smaller, more manageable Sandringham estate. Scheduled for October 2026, this transition was intended to be a streamlining of royal assets and a quiet resolution to the housing questions surrounding the controversial prince. However, sources close to the situation have revealed that the reality is far more chaotic. The move has stalled, trapped beneath what insiders describe as pure, unadulterated clutter, resulting from the deep-seated hoarding habits of the prince himself. The architecture of accumulation. To understand the scale of the problem, one must visualize the setting. Royal Lodge is not merely a home, it is a sprawling, historic property intended to serve as a pristine repository of antique treasures and royal dignity. However, according to highly placed sources, the residence has become an obstacle course of disorganized possessions. We are not speaking of a few untidy drawers or a cluttered attic. The reports paint a picture of entire rooms packed from floor to ceiling with documents, personal collections, and boxes that have not seen the light of day in years. The source was blunt in their assessment, labeling the prince a natural hoarder. This simple diagnosis explains the monumental task now facing the royal household staff. For a figure like Andrew, who has spent decades at the epicenter of power, travel, and diplomacy, the sheer volume of incoming material is astronomical. The collection includes state gifts carrying diplomatic weight, mementos from global tours, thousands of official photographs, and endless internal palace correspondence. In the world of royalty, the psychology of hoarding takes on a unique dimension. For the average person, decluttering is a matter of deciding what is useful or joyful. For a royal, nothing is ever truly disposable. Every receipt might be a historical document, every letter belongs to the National Archive, every trinket has a provenance that might be of interest to future historians. This environment fosters an internal belief that everything must be preserved, leading to a paralysis of decision-making. Over decades, this paralysis has calcified into physical walls of paper and objects that now make the simple act of moving house a Herculean labor. The strategy and the standoff. The dedicated staff of the royal household, known for their professionalism and discretion, have attempted to devise a strategic approach to this chaos. Their plan was to prioritize the identification and removal of items that definitively belong to the wider royal family or the institutional crown, priceless artworks, antique furniture, and historical artifacts. The logic was sound: clear the most valuable and bulky items first to establish a precedent for cataloging and create physical space. However, this strategy hit an immediate roadblock: Prince Andrew's reported refusal to engage in the process. Initial sources disclosed that the Duke was not ready to accept help in sorting through his life's accumulation. This resistance meant that the burden of separation, organization, and preservation fell squarely on the shoulders of the staff. They were left to wade through thousands of square feet of stored history without the guidance of the owner, turning a personal move into a blind archaeological dig. The ownership labyrinth. The physical clutter is merely the surface of the problem. Beneath the stacks of paper lies a complex legal and proprietary minefield. As the clearing process began, a core tension emerged regarding the ownership of the items within Royal Lodge. There is an ongoing, high-stakes debate over what Andrew personally owns versus what belongs to the Crown Estate or the Royal Collection Trust. This distinction is not trivial. It involves the rigorous rules governing royal patrimony. The Crown Estate maintains specific claims over assets acquired during the course of royal duties or inherited as part of the public trust. Distinguishing between a personal gift given to Andrew by a friend and a state gift given to the Duke of York by a foreign dignitary is a matter of diplomatic and legal necessity. Furthermore, items purchased with private funds must be separated from those maintained by the duchy or the public purse. To navigate this labyrinth, the palace has had to mobilize a bureaucratic apparatus that transforms a residential move into a state-level archival project. Specialized teams have been deployed, likely including experts from the Royal Archives to sift through correspondence, solicitors specializing in trust law to interpret wills and acquisition records, and certified appraisers to place values on items before they can be categorized. The staff cannot simply sort and discard. Every item must be logged with painstaking accuracy to avoid future disputes. A seemingly random stack of receipts could be crucial documentation proving the purchase of an asset now claimed by the Crown. A personal letter, if mishandled or leaked, could cause diplomatic embarrassment. This level of scrutiny means the process is agonizingly slow. It is not a matter of packing boxes, it is a matter of forensic auditing. The conservation challenge. Compounding the difficulty is the venue itself. Royal Lodge is a Grade II listed building, a structure of historical significance that requires specialized conservation protocols. One cannot simply drag heavy boxes or slide antique furniture across centuries-old floors. The physical extraction of tons of material requires scaffolding, protective measures for historic plasterwork, and careful environmental controls. The sheer structural difficulty of removing the hoard from such a tightly packed, historically sensitive residence acts as a brake on the entire operation. Every movement must be calculated to prevent damage to the building, meaning that the physical logistics are as delicate as the legal ones. This reality has forced a recalibration of the timeline. While the deadline for the move is set for October 2026, sources indicate that the process will take months of specialized labor, making the timeline feel increasingly ambitious. Reframing the narrative, the buyout. Amidst the reports of clutter and chaos, a crucial detail emerged that reshapes the public understanding of this relocation. For years, the prevailing narrative suggested that Prince Andrew was being marginalized, perhaps even evicted from his comfortable residence as a consequence of his reduced public role and past scandals. However, insiders have clarified that the move to Sandringham is not an eviction, but a transaction. Prince Andrew was reportedly bought out of his lease. Royal Lodge was held under a long-term lease, reportedly spanning 75 years. The move involves the Crown or King Charles personally providing a significant financial sum to Andrew to relinquish the remainder of that lease. This payment likely covers the costs of renovations and maintenance he undertook during his occupancy. This distinction is monumental. Being pushed out implies a punitive measure, a command from the monarch to vacate due to misconduct. Being bought out implies a negotiation, a settlement, and a complex financial arrangement. It transforms the move from a public shaming into a managed logistical and financial transaction designed to ensure a smooth transition. However, this financial element adds yet another layer of complexity to the sorting process. If the Crown is paying a settlement, questions arise regarding what assets that payment covers. Does the buyout implicitly include certain fixtures, fittings, or personal assets left behind? Does it complicate Andrew's claim over items that might be considered improvements to the property? The staff must now document not only what is being moved but what is being surrendered as part of the agreement. Every invoice and purchase record buried in the hoard becomes a potential piece of evidence in this financial settlement. The human cost. Ultimately, the story of the Royal Lodge relocation is a testament to the limitations of wealth and power. It reveals that even with unlimited resources and a retinue of professional staff, deep-seated personal habits can bring the machinery of the monarchy to a grinding halt. The image of historic rooms where light barely penetrates the stacks of boxes is a striking metaphor for the Duke's current situation, walled in by the past, unable to move easily into the future. It is a classic profile of a serious accumulator, someone for whom discarding an object is psychologically impossible because every item is imbued with intrinsic, necessary value. For the staff, this is a nightmare scenario. They are tasked with invading the privacy of a senior royal, vetting every scrap of paper that defines his life, and separating the priceless porcelain from the sentimental junk. They are the unsung heroes of this saga, working tirelessly to uphold the dignity of the institution while wading through the physical manifestation of a chaotic personal life. As the clock ticks toward October 2026, the royal household faces a battle on three fronts: the physical crisis of the hoard, the legal crisis of ownership, and the structural crisis of the historic building. The initial estimate that the clearing process would take months now seems optimistic. What was intended to be a quiet shifting of royal pieces has become a protracted struggle against clutter and bureaucracy. This situation offers a rare glimpse behind the curtain of royal life, exposing a reality far removed from the polished exterior presented to the public. It serves as a reminder that the royal family, for all its pomp and circumstance, is comprised of individuals subject to the same human foibles and psychological complexities as anyone else, only in their case, the clutter is historic, the home is a national monument, and the stakes involve the reputation and assets of the crown itself. The siege of Royal Lodge continues, not with cannons, but with cardboard boxes, creating one of the most singular and arduous moving days in British history.